Welcome to our October 1st, 2019 Board of Selectmen meeting. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. And we don't have any announcements or proclamations. We have our first 7 o'clock
You need to make that statement about Jim.
appointment, but before I do, I did want to make the statement that Selectman Jim O'Neill is going to be participating remotely during the meeting as he is unable to be here because of a geographical reason, and it is allowed by our policies. He will be calling in when we get to voting on the town meeting articles. So our 7 o'clock, I'll entertain a motion to open.
I'll make a motion to open the hearing for J&E Beer Wine Deli.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, 400. Come on up. You could just give us your name and address for the record.
Sure. My name is Robert Pellegrini. Address is 63 Main Street, Bridgewater. I'm here with Gene Ibrahim, the owner of the store. We're just here tonight. We're just really cleaning some things up. One, we noticed that the beer and wine license has the word Inc., not LLC. So that's one of our changes. We're also updating him as the license manager, and we're also adding, is it your brother? My brother. His brother as a corporate manager, and that's it. There's no other changes, nothing inside proposed.
Okay, and Cindy, all the paperwork is good?
Everything's good.
And any board members have any questions?
Looks good.
Good. David?
It's good.
All right, that being said, I'll entertain a motion to close.
I'll make a motion to change the corporate name to J&E Beer Wine Deli LLC.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
400.
Thank you very much.
Yep. You're welcome.
Thank you for cleaning that up.
So I still need the other two,
Yeah.
Yes,
Can
and
I
then,
combine them?
oh, I'm sorry.
Hold on just one second.
to-
We have a couple other motions, but I don't see any problem.
Yeah, there's not a problem.
right? Can I combine them, or do they have to be separate?
Can they be together or separate?
You should do them separate.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to change the manager to Gene Ibrahim.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400.
I'll make a motion to change the LLC managers to Gene Ibrahim and Elias Ibrahim.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400. Now you're really.
Now you're all set.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. And moving on. It's a public hearing. It's not till 7:10. Is there anything, Jim, that you wanted to give us an update about?
Sure, I could read through the TA updates if you like.
Sure.
Okay. Couple of quick items. The Boyden School meeting tomorrow night at 7 p.m. In South Walpole to discuss the 300-unit housing development on Summer Street. I set that up with the developer so they could provide residents with information regarding the project, kind of give them an overview of the project, provide some maps, answer some questions, and more or less take in their comments and concerns and get that back to Mass Housing. I think it's going to be well attended. I've heard that a lot of people are interested in it. And we're going to have the auditorium set up just like we did last time when we had the MBTA discussion down there a couple years ago. So, any questions on that? MBTA.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
I think you had mentioned Walpole Media would be recording it.
they would be recorded.
And they'll
It
put
would
it
be
up on their
yeah.
website.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And are we posted to be there?
Yes, I posted
You're
you, just
posted,
in
but-
case. Yeah.
Okay, just in case, okay.
Thanks.
MBTA dismissal motion. I attached the dismissal decision from the Commonwealth As you know, we issued a request for an injunction there. They required a dismissal notice to the town. They complained that the speed limit request was outside of the time frame as submitted and not really allowed, and the judge granted that. So unfortunately, the court ruling's attached. It's disappointing, and just more or less wanted the board to know that we continue to try on this one, but we're not getting anywhere. Legal action. Stadium parking. We continue to deal with some of the issues with the private and public parking lots that were out there, legal and non-legal. This is just a brief update for the 6 lots that were not in compliance. The fire department went out and inspected all the lots that had licenses. 6 of them had either too many vehicles on there, no sign, no fire extinguisher, or no first aid kit, kind of a variation of all of everything here. So we're going to be issuing letters to those licensed parking lots and putting them on notice that, you know, on such and such a date, you were found to be in excess of your allowed license. Fire department had the following findings. You know, just a reminder, you're required to be in compliance. Just more of a warning notice at this time to get everyone back in line. There are 6 more home games for the Patriots between now and the end of the year. And I want to make sure we address everything before everyone's up on January 1st. So just a heads up on that stuff.
Great.
And that's it from me for updates.
All right. Anyone have any,
New business?
want to do the new business? The block parties? David, do you want to?
No, I'm reading stuff.
All right, I'll move to the block parties. I'll make a motion to grant a block party for October 5th on Alma Road and Call Road.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, 400. I'll make a motion to grant the request for a one-day, all-day alcohol license for the Knights of Columbus on 10/12/19.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400. I'll make a motion to grant the request for a one-day all alcohol license for the Knights of Columbus on 10/19/19.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400. And now, I think it's 10 from my point of view, passed.
7:08.
Consent?
All right, consent agenda. David.
These will be voted as one item. These are donations from Judith Hunk, James and Mary Connell, Andrea Jones, Elizabeth Donovan, George and Cynthia Weiflin Back, Dana Anderson, Michelle Wells, and Tricia and Bruce Connie.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, 400. I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of September 17th, 2019.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400. And it is 7:10. Come on now. Just walk slow. I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to open the public hearing for Vivino Winery.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, Selectmen, Cindy, and Mr. Johnson. My name is Al DiNapoli. I'm here before you with an application for a pouring license for Vivino Winery LLC. Approximately a year, or maybe a little over a year ago, before you, where we made application for a wine and malt beverage license for the same entity, we were overly optimistic that we would be able to open up the winery by the time, or prior to the time we had the farm winery license. Unfortunately, that didn't work, but you did approve us at that time with all the information about the winery in front of you, including approving the manager of record, Dominic Arpino, who is also here today. So in the meantime, it was always our goal to file an application with the federal government for a farm winery license, which we did in fact get. Once we obtained that, Then we could apply for the farm winery license with the Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission in Massachusetts. When that was received, and we have that, we surrendered the beer and wine license to the town of Walpole, because you can't have an operator with both. So the farm winery license allows us to make a wine at the location and to sell samples. There's a specific amount of how many samples you can, the size, and to individuals, but it doesn't provide specifically for a pouring license or selling of bottles. So we're before you with an application under the farm winery license and the statute to asking that we be permitted under the provisions of the statute to pour the wine that's made on site. We also have a letter that we submitted requesting permission for us to sell bottles. However, while you can give permission to that, that still needs approval up at the ABCC there's no application before the town. That application has to be done up at the ABCC, and that's in the process of getting done. So really what's before you today is the application to allow us to pour wine at the site, 2255 Providence Highway.
Very good, and all the paperwork is in order? Does anyone, board members, have any questions?
I don't have any questions. I'd just make a comment. I look forward to you guys opening. I know it's been a long process for you, and
Longer and more arduous than we expected.
I think it'll be a nice addition for Walpole, so.
Thank you. We think so. We're spending a lot of time making this a nice-looking location that people will enjoy.
Great.
Great location. David?
So just as far as the selling of bottles, we're just giving a recommendation that the
Yes,
ABC approval kind of.
that would be okay, but then I need the full application. It's an application that only goes to the ABCC under the statute that would allow that.
And then it doesn't come back to us at all?
No.
Interesting.
And being a public hearing, is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to this? No? I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Opposed, abstained, 400.
I'll make a motion to grant Di Bavino Winery a pouring license.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400.
Thank you very much.
And I will make a motion to approve the request to sell bottles of wine at Di Bavino Winery.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All set.
Thank you. Very nice seeing
Just
you
you and
all.
the ABCC now.
About the new space
The new,
here.
isn't it nice?
Beautiful.
Isn't it beautiful?
Mr. Snuff and I are very jealous that we didn't have the opportunity to sit in such lush.
Very lush.
We all deserve it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And, yes, we have the articles.
Would you like me to kind of run through and, okay, so the board's set to consider some of the remaining articles this evening. I'd like to start off with Article.
Neil on the phone?
Oh, shoot, okay, thank you.
So while Jim is on the phone, we have to do all votes by roll call as part of the statute, just so everybody knows.
Oh, so it's clear who says what?
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
I'm on target for a record right now.
Better than last week? Or 2 weeks ago? You were cranking on the feet. Forget Jim.
Hey, it's Jim O'Neill.
Hi, Jim, it's Jim. You're on with the board here. We're just getting to the article discussion.
Great, thanks.
Okay. Article 2 is the first one we'll start off with. That is in relation to the in-year budget transfer to modify some of the budgets. The total request here is $196,560. It's going to cover multiple items, $20,000 for the town clerk miscellaneous expenses. That's set to cover $10,000 for the electronic voting that we anticipate for the fall and the spring, and $10,000 if Articles 19 and 20 were to pass, just the legal cost and the charter update and everything else that may be associated with that. The second item is for the early voting, which is $6,560. That's to address the early voting that's anticipated for the federal election in March for the primary. The next one is $55,000 for the solid waste recycling. As the board knows, we renegotiated the contract with Russell to allow the town to cover the recycling costs there. Working with Melissa, the Deputy Board of Health Director, and Robin, the Board of Health Director, and the Finance Department, we're all comfortable with the number of $55,000 to address any potential shortfall in that budget. $12,000 to address the Board of Health salaries, which, with the anticipation of Robin's retirement and the new director starting, that's what we're budgeting for that. And the town engineer salary is $28,000. That's to cover the retirement of Maggie Walker and some of the coverage for the summer that was needed. And the last item is $75,000 for the debt and interest budget, which will go towards future pay down of the town's borrowing costs. Any question?
I don't have any board members have any questions?
Nope.
I'll
I'm
entertain a
good with
motion.
What was the last item?
$75,000 for the debt and interest budget.
And why wasn't that in the budget before? Why was it different?
That's where we actually put that in there to, in anticipation of future borrowing costs for the school's project, whichever your board and the school committee deem appropriate.
What's the proper motion language? Do we have to open?
Favorable action for articles.
We don't have to open into discussion, right?
No.
Okay. All right, I make a motion for favorable action on Article 2.
I'll second that.
Salvatore, yes.
Oh, any further discussion? All right. I will, Mark Gallivan,
Yes.
Ben Barrett,
Yes.
Nancy McKenzie, yes. David Salvatore,
Yes.
Jim O'Neill,
Yes.
500, favorable action for Article 2. Article 3,
Okay, Article 3 is in relation to the Fields article. Total funding request that's being asked for a town meeting is $6 million.
No point
So
of
there
order
is-
on a
we're-
selectmen's meeting.
yeah, there is an actual, Cliff, point of order while we are making our motions for action of town meeting. I know that I've heard that you want to speak, which would be during open forum,
Which is now,
7:20.
and relating to 3. It would be appropriate, Madam Chairman, for 3 to go forward with the knowledge of 7:20 and my ability to speak. That may have some consideration.
So I will put us on hold for the articles, and our being 7:20, I will invite anybody up that is here to speak for open forum. Come on up, Cliff.
Jim wants to make sure I'm recorded properly. Thank you, Madam Chairman and members of the board, Madam Chairwoman, if you prefer. And thank you for the courtesy. The clock sometimes is your friend and sometimes is your enemy. So I appreciate the open forum starting on time. I want to talk about what could be, in my opinion, the wrong decision to make relative to placing three aspects of cash on hand for the purposes of meeting some of the requirements that you may have from a borrowing perspective of the field. Those are new police station, $100,000, Superfund cleanup for South Street, $50,000, and Memorial Pond for $168,252.65. The $318,000 estimate, in my opinion, Madam Chairwoman, would be inappropriate for the following reasons. The Memorial Pond, I want all of you to reflect on the fact that in just 3 to 4 short years, we will be dealing with the 300th anniversary of the town of Walpole. And that pond, in its consideration with all of its former glory, can stand once again as an appropriate tribute to the people with which that was donated and dedicated. I also want to call your attention to the decade that the Ponds Committee people, their husbands, wives, and children have put tens of thousands of hours into the ponds, and how much they have given of their own money. And in my opinion, it would be absolutely inappropriate, with work yet to be done, in my opinion, for that pond to have that money go to fields. At a minimum, if it went anywhere, it should go to other pond activities. The second item, Madam Chairwoman, is the Superfund cleanup for South Street, and that's $50,000. This town proudly stood in front of the DEP, the EPA, and in some very hallowed places, and accepted awards for the preservation, the rejuvenation of a contaminated site. And proud you all are and should be of that. We continue to fundraise for that particular area, and I have had conversations with Congressman Lynch, who is now on the Water Resource and Environmental Committee. And if we had that $50,000 where it belongs, on that site, by the DEP, by the responsible parties agreement with the town of Walpole, we could use that $50,000 to put a study and a test in for the Neponset River, which flows right off of our borders. And if that worked, which I believe it will, you could end up with that making enough electricity to pay the bills for the electrical needs of both the police station and the senior center. And last, the new police station. Just a few weeks ago, I had a conversation with Chief Carmichael, and we were told that you couldn't get $10,000 into the expense budget to help a police officer who's taking money out of his own pocket to pay for the Goofy dog, for Rebel. And the reality there is that police station would not even be as efficient and as effective if it wasn't for the outbuilding in the back. I believe that $100,000 is necessary to keep that building sound and to add to it as that need acquires. That too is money that was meant for that site. And if you look at the woods right to the rear of it, you will also see that that's in need. I would like to see the fields take on the same responsibility as the Friends of the Council of Aging did, and that is to raise the money that is justifiably in their purview to raise, and to leave these 3 pieces of money exactly where they belong. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Cliff. Being open forum, we will not comment during open forum. And is there anyone else here who would like to speak to open forum? No, no one coming over. We are going to return to our articles. And moving on to Article 3, I will entertain a motion so we can then move to discussion.
I would put forward a motion for favorable action for Article 3.
I'll second that for discussion.
Discussion. David?
I just have one. So the way that the board voted previously to break out the bid is how this bid is broken out.
Yes, it is.
And I had voted against that at that point. I think the vote was 3-2. But do we have any idea how much each of the turf's fields cost individually?
We do not.
So the bid for, do we know how much the two turf fields cost
We
together?
didn't, per the board's directive, I did one bid, so we didn't break it out. And that's, for all the fields, the total bid was $5,967,000.
Gotcha.
Any other, Mark, Ben, Jim? No?
Let me see if Jim,
Jim, any comments on the fields?
None from me, Jim.
Okay, that being said, we have a motion. A sec- oh,
I do want to make a couple of comments. So I know that we can't respond directly to Cliff, but since the issues were brought up, I am comfortable with the cash and borrowing that was planned. Those three items in particular, I believe, were the same ones from the spring. I think this is a good project. I like the way it's going to go. I will mention, and it's been mentioned before, but there is a group that's forming to do some fundraising for the things that were taken out of the Fields project this cycle as opposed to last cycle. And they need to decide exactly what that's going to be, but I believe they're going to focus on the building, which will have bathrooms and storage and, maybe a snack shack type thing. And then I believe they're going to focus on the handicapped accessible playground, because Walpole doesn't really have one that's handicapped accessible. So I just wanted to mention that. It's been discussed. There have been some meetings. There'll be more meetings. But I do like the project the way it's configured.
Thank you.
I have I have a couple questions here. For Jim, the police station reappropriation, $100,000, what is the value of the police station fund currently? Or
What's the
what-
current balance?
Yeah.
Current balance is $341,000.
So after we take $100,000 from it to utilize to decrease borrowing on this project, there'll be $245,000.
241, yes.
$141,000.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think Cliff makes some good points about things that we can still do with these funds, and I think that we should undertake that. I think that we should pay attention to that after town meeting and move forward with some of these ideas. I don't think that any of them are mutually exclusive with the Fields project. I think that we can do them all. So, and I would definitely support Cliff and the statements he made with the need for those. But I'm also comfortable with the way this is set up financially.
Okay.
Yes. Mr. Barrett brings up a question, his comments raise a different question for me. So the 300 or 400,000 that's in the police fund,
Yes.
that's money that's already been borrowed?
That's money that's been set aside, yeah, because on all three of these projects, we had a combination of cash on hand and borrowing, so that's what's remaining in the project budget.
Okay, so is that money that was borrowed, or is it money that was cash on
We
hand?
borrowed the full amount that was,
Okay.
we're required to spend the cash on hand first, then spend the borrowing. So I guess if you looked at it that way, it's $341,905 remaining in the funds that were borrowed for that project.
Okay, so we're essentially paying interest on that money and then parking.
It's sitting in the police account. They're pretty much closed out. I've talked to Joe Zangetti. Once in a while, something small will come up, but the project's pretty much done.
So what's best practice there, to spend this money elsewhere since you're paying to borrow it?
You have to, and one of the reasons why I didn't recommend spending the whole 341 was because, quite honestly, something could come up between now and, next town meeting or fall town meeting that still left us a buffer that I was comfortable with.
All right, so without any other questions or comments,
I do have a comment as
Oh.
well. So I had, in my discussions previously, had indicated that I believe that this project is extravagant, having two turf fields. Some items were taken out, but basically this is the same project that was proposed before. I think asking the taxpayers to fund this extravagant project with the override for a potential middle school around the corner is extreme. I think we should be parking this money in an account in order that we can show to the taxpayers that we've been frugal and that we can put this money in a place that when the override vote comes for the middle schools, we can show that we have a significant amount of money already set aside. Looking at this project, the 2 turf fields, both with lights, is an extravagant expense. I would have been, and I discussed previously, interested in supporting a project in which just 1 turf field was proposed, and that would have given, and that would have also provided 2 baseball diamonds and 2 football fields as well, even if we took out the turf field. So I will be voting no on this.
Thank you. Just because I hadn't made a comment yet, I did want to say that, many years ago, we started with a lot of needs, and I think a community, to be a whole community and a good, strong, thriving community, takes care of all of its residents. And I think we've done a really nice job of taking care of our public safety. We've done a really nice job of taking care of our seniors. We're in the process of planning and taking care of schools. And this is another part of the community, the outdoor space, the green space, and people playing on the fields and people watching at the fields. We listened to town meeting, and my thought that we did scale back and take away the things that could be fundraised and will be fundraised. So I'm very, very pleased with all the hard work by many people and the work that Ben and Mark have been doing with fundraising and the different user groups that have come out and starting to make pledges and things like that. I think it speaks volumes for the people of Walpole, and I'm really excited to hopefully see this go through. If a piece of us is missing, we're not a whole community. So, that being said, roll call again. The motion is for favorable action of Article 3. Mark Gallivan?
Yes.
Ben Barrett?
Yes.
Nancy McKenzie, yes. David Salvatore?
No.
Jim O'Neill?
Yes.
So that is a 4-1-0. The motion passes. Moving on to Article 4.
Okay, Article 4.
Thank you, Cliff.
Thanks, Cliff.
And thanks for keeping us honest, Cliff.
Articles 4 through 7 relate to the capital budget request relating to infrastructure, equipment, roads, and road borrowing. I know you all have the spreadsheet at the back here that breaks out all the items. Finance Committee and Capital have met and voted on all these items as listed. Does anyone have any specific questions?
Yes, so since we have these all listed here, does anyone want to, because we could move through the motions, ask any questions about 4? David, do you have any questions?
No, I don't think so.
No?
I'm good with 4.
4.
Good.
Jim, are you good with 4?
I'm good with 4, Nancy.
Okay, let's move on to just talk about Article 5. Does anyone have any questions about Article 5? Jim, do you have any questions about 5?
No, I'm good, Nancy, thank you.
Mark?
I would just make one comment. I'm really glad to see on the fire department list, the money for turnout gear. We've been talking about the need for a second set of modern turnout gear for each firefighter and the ability for them to clean their gear between events. And we've seen sometimes when they've gone out twice in the same day. And I know the cancer risk for firefighters is high. And I know that's become a national issue. So I'm really glad we're able to work that into the budget.
It really cuts down their exposure time.
Yes, yeah, I think that's great. I'm good with everything else.
David? You good?
That's fine.
Ben, good?
Good, thank you.
All right, Article 6. Does anyone have any questions to discuss about Article 6?
No.
Article 6 is streets, drainage? No? No. Jim? Are you?
I'm good, Nancy.
6, okay. And then Article 7 is another streets, our regular street program.
All right.
Any questions?
No.
Nope. Mark?
Looks
Jim?
good. I'm glad we're, sorry, I changed my mind.
Oh.
I am glad we're able to do 400,000. I mean, I've mentioned a few times in the past that I think we're falling behind
All right,
on streets based on the winters and the bad weather. So I think that's good. And to the extent we can over time, we can put more money into the additional street work. I think that'll be good. It will let us catch up, so.
right. Jim O'Neill?
Yeah, no questions.
David?
That's it.
Okay, so that being said, we've gone over 4, 5, 6, and 7, so we'll vote them individually, but we can just move along.
Okay.
I'll entertain a motion for Article 4.
I make a motion for favorable action to Article 4.
I'll second that.
Mark?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Nancy, yes. David?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes,
Very good. 5-0-0. I'll entertain a motion for Article 5.
I make a motion for favorable action on Article 5.
I'll second that. And yet say yes.
Mark Gallivan, yes. Ben Barrett?
Yes.
Nancy McKenzie, yes. David?
Yes.
Jim O'Neill?
yes,
Very good. That's 5-0-0. I'll entertain a motion for Article 6.
Make a motion for favorable action to Article 6.
I'll second that and say yes.
Ben Barrett?
Yes.
Nancy McKenzie, yes. David Salvatore?
Yes.
Jim O'Neill?
yes,
And I'll entertain a motion for Article 7.
Make a motion for favorable action, Article 7.
I'll second that and say yes.
Ben Barrett?
Yes.
Nancy McKenzie, yes. David Salvatore?
Yes.
Jim O'Neill?
yes,
So that is 5-0-0, favorable action. And we are putting a hold on Article 12, 14, 15, 18, 19, and 20 because they have not been voted by the planning board. And we are moving to Article 17, Board of Assessors. Does anyone have questions about that? I know we had discussed it before, and it was David who had a hold, and you're all set.
All set, yes.
I'll entertain a motion for favorable action.
Make a motion for favorable action, Article 17.
I'll second that.
And Mark? You'll?
Yes, sorry.
Ben?
Yes.
Nancy McKenzie, yes. David Salvatore?
Yes.
And Jim O'Neill?
yes,
All right, so we are 5-0-0 on Article 17. The others will be held until town meeting, because we will not get our, we won't meet before then, will we?
Meeting the 15th.
Do we-
15th?
Oh, we,
The Tuesday before
We're
we
meeting
go.
the 15th.
okay, so these will be back on for the
You can
15th,
still consider it, yeah.
as long as they make their decisions. We'll consider 12, 14, 15, 18, 19, and 20.
Yeah, this, I got a note here, the Sewer and Water Commissioners are meeting, I think he said the 10th. The Finance Committee, I believe they're gonna meet before then, but the public hearing is the 3rd, so you guys are covered for planning board.
Great.
Yeah.
And Cindy also mentioned that she's booked the Board of Selectmen meeting just before town meeting in case we need to consider one of the items at that time.
So, I know we're not gonna vote on them tonight, but 14 and 15, what's the language that's still being worked on?
So you wanna take this, Ben?
Sure. Want me to tell you?
Yeah, sure.
The language is very, very similar to the language that we reviewed in the draft. It got stuck with town council for a little bit, if only because it was swimming on their desk. They have looked at it. They've given us some input, very, very limited, mostly, just verbiage and other changes, which are actually being incorporated tonight, and that'll be distributed to everybody tomorrow morning. So everyone on this board will get a copy, planning board, anybody will, it'll just be distributed, freely. It'll go in the RTM packets.
So, at one point, there were blanks as far as the percentages. Have those been pinned down at this point?
Oh, yeah, yep.
And what are they?
Well, it depends on which section you're talking about, but the percentages that or the triggers, so to speak, it's been placed as a gradation. So there's actually a table depending on the sizing, and the gradation's based on that percent. I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but it's a more effective way to establish those triggers than just a single number.
And we're gonna
based
see
upon our
those tomorrow.
discussions.
That'll be in there tomorrow?
Yeah, it's gonna be in the final text.
All right, thanks.
All right, and so with that being said, Jim, thank you for calling in.
Thanks. Talk to y'all later.
All right.
Thank you, Jim.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jim.
And we've gone through everything. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Would make a motion to adjourn?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye.